Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of On Point for today, Friday, the first day of December 2023. And of course, saying the first day of December tells me that we're nearing the end of this year 2023. And some of you may ask, well, where has the year gone? Well, we have gone through 11 months already. Now we're into the 12th month. And it tells me that perhaps we have so many things to do in so little time. That is why time flies so quickly. But it's good to be alive and well on this great and beautiful day here on the island of Nevis. As I drove to the radio station just a while ago, looked up at Mount Nevis, or Nevis Peak, sorry. I said Mount Nevis, Nevis Peak. And there are no clouds. You look up at Saddle Hill and it is just picturesque out there. Very beautiful day here on the island of Nevis. And those who are not here, just imagine being in Nevis. The sun is not that hot. There's a somewhat cool feeling outside, even though the sun is out. And this is the type of day you want to have here on the island of Nevis. The place looks lush. And indeed, we are happy to be alive to experience all this. So I'm extending an invitation to all those who are listening. If you haven't made any plans for your Christmases yet, if you have some extra cash, some additional funds that you can utilize, go ahead and buy a ticket and come home and spend some time with your family for this Christmas. You know, I have been missing for the last 2 weeks, and I want to apologize for that. Well, of course, 2 weeks ago there were pressing matters, and then indeed last week Friday I was not on the island. It was on the eve of my birthday, and I said I'm going to go somewhere and enjoy myself, because these days, as we always say, today you're here, tomorrow you're gone. But it's a much quicker period these days. This minute you're here, this minute you're gone. And so I decided that so long as I'm alive, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy my birthdays. Not necessarily here on the island of Nevis, but if I do, I'm going to enjoy it anyway. But I have chosen over the last couple of years to just go and enjoy myself and spend whatever I can on myself also. And I've said to persons that spend as much as you can on yourself. And that still won't be enough to spend on yourself, that is. But whatever you do, just think about yourself and have fun when your birthday comes around. In terms of this point of the show, normally we express condolences to all of the families out there that are grieving as well. I don't have anyone in particular. Oh, I believe earlier this week we would have lost a fisherman by the name of Jumper. I can't really say what his correct name is or his given name is, but I've known him for a number of years, for more than 10 years. And I always knew him as Jumper. And he passed away earlier this week. I believe it was Tuesday. Well, I want to express my condolences to his family. I don't know his family, but I know I knew him well. And of course, he was a fisherman over there in the Wally Beach, Wally Bay area. And indeed, a very jovial person. I believe persons like Mems up there at the Mems Pizzeria would know him very well, because he would have come there and drop off his catch. And indeed, other persons on the island who would have interacted with Jumper would know he was a jovial guy, a guy who you can rely on, a reliable person. And indeed, he would be certainly missed by those who would have depended on him to provide him with those resources from the ocean, whether fish, lobster, conchs, whatever the case might be. So he would have made his contribution in some shape and in some form, and indeed that contribution would be missed. And we certainly will just like to say, may his soul rest in peace. And of course, we all continue to listen for whenever that time comes when there will be a funeral service, so that we can indeed at that point in time pay our last respects. Other families that are grieving at this time, I want to extend my condolences to you, and indeed ask for God's protection and God's guidance and God's upliftment of your family at this particular point in time. Because I know losing a loved one, there is a finality in that, in that you will not see that person again in living flesh, but of course the memories is what you'd want to hold on to at this point in time. That being said, I was talking about birthdays, and yes, I had a wonderful time. If persons would like to know, I want to publicly thank everyone who expressed birthday greetings on last Saturday. It was overwhelming, some significant numbers, and I suppose that is the beauty of social media, because once you're in that space, people know of you, people know when your birthday, when you're celebrating your birthday, and persons will express accordingly. And I want to thank everyone for their expression of best wishes last Saturday. Now today, a very good friend of mine over there in Butlers, we call her Fiend, affectionately known as Fiend, but her correct name is Josephine Maynard, but we call her Fiend for short. Fiend, happy birthday to you. Well, Fiend is celebrating, well, I don't know the exact number. I know she's older than 80. I know she's close to 85. But whatever the age is, I would say no one can doubt that Fiend look a lot younger than her actual birthday would suggest. Because Fiend is one of those active seniors. Every event Fiend is there. And Fiend, I believe Fiend would have gone into, yes, she did go into one of those seniors pageant some years ago. So Fiend is an active person, and certainly by doing so, she has kept herself in good shape. And Fiend, I want to express my my profound and greetings to you on this day, in terms of wishing you a happy birthday, and may you live to see many more birthdays. How many more? You and I wouldn't know, but whatever the Lord bless you with, I want you to enjoy every one of them to come. And each day, look at it as a day when you are blessed to be alive. And I will try and stop by later. I think I have a bottle of apple cider for you. I can't give you nothing more than that. That is the most fitting gift that I can give you at this point in time. So I'll catch up with you later, Finn. But enjoy. And anyone else who are celebrating on the first day of December, which is today, I want you to enjoy yourself and just go ahead and enjoy it as if it's your last. It won't be your last, or it may be, but whatever the occasion or situation is, go ahead and enjoy yourself. It is meant to be enjoyed anyway. So yesterday also marked the end of the hurricane season, and indeed we were blessed this year by not being affected by any major storm this year, and that is something for us to give God thanks for and give praises unto him for his divine protection. We ask for that every year at the start of the hurricane season, the 1st of June that is, and by the end of the hurricane season, in most cases over the last at least I would say at least 10 years or more, we haven't seen any major devastation from a hurricane. I think the last devastating hurricane was back in 2008, somewhere around October thereabout of 2008, when Omar would have visited the shores of Nevis, or St. Kitts Nevis, but more so Nevis, and there was tremendous damage through the Four Seasons Resort. Other parts of the island didn't suffer as much, but Four Seasons was knocked out of commission, and indeed it took almost 2 years or thereabout to bring it back online. This year we can say that we were spared any major hurricane or storm. Had some torrential rain in some spots and in some occasions, which would have caused some damage here and there, but it is those damages were nothing for us to recover from. So we have recovered, and there are certain parts of the world who are still recovering from the devastating effect of hurricanes. So I want to say, well, thank God for us, and we ask God blessings on them. Okay? Now, in terms of what we have planned for today, let us see. I believe the promotion has been aired here on Von Radio and other social media platforms, where we are planning to have our first in a series of consultations for the upgrade and expansion of the Vance Amri International Airport. As I've said in the past, it has been just about 20 years since we have last seen any major infrastructural upgrade of that particular facility. Over the years, we have had some work done on the runway itself, on the eastern end and on the western end. The western end, of course, is where, you know, the majority of landing takes place. And of course, there were some issues at the eastern end, and those were taken care of within the last, I believe, 3-4 years. Other than that, we have not had any major upgrade or work done at the airport. Over the last, let's say about 5 to 10 years, we've seen a decrease in the amount of airlift as well. And some may point fingers and some may start saying, well, you're not doing enough to promote the airport or promote the island or whatever the discussion might be. But I will say to you that we have to accept the fact that Van Summer International Airport is, in its current state, is inadequate for any major airline to fly in and out. And I say that to say this, that first of all, the runway is too short. And that is the first difficulty you have. Secondly, most of the aircraft that were used in the past, like these turboprops, the ATR 42, the ATR 72, some of that is still being used at this point in time, but those are being used for regional travel. Now, St. Kitts Nevis is not about the regional travel per se. We want our regional brothers and sisters to come. There's no doubt about that. But our emphasis has always been on the international market, the United States, Europe, that is the United Kingdom, and all other countries within Europe, South America. How do you get here to Nevis from those parts? Perhaps a hop, a skip, and a jump. And when I say a hop, a skip, and a jump, you have to go through various countries to get to Nevis, or St. Kitts Nevis, but more so to Nevis, because even if you get to St. Kitts, you still have to get onto some other mode of transportation to get to Nevis. That being said, we understand that this whole idea of connectivity is lacking at this point in time. Nevis cannot get any better, will never get any better unless we're able to make those connections and make the airport a facility whereby larger aircrafts can come. Those aircraft that can come and intend to come should have that ability to come, and that is why it is so important that we go about the business of expanding and upgrading the Van Summer International Airport. Now, connection to the island of Nevis must be faster, must be cheaper in some means, and it must be convenient in every regard. And I say all that to say this, that there are some who may be opposed to what the government is planning or the NIA is planning to do, and that is why we are having this consultation to lay out exactly what we plan to do up there at the Van Summer International Airport. And I will say this, we can always argue about whether the airport should be reconstructed or expanded. We can always argue about whether it is feasible to do. We can argue about that, and we can spend another 10 years doing it, as a matter of fact, or for however long. When it's all said and done, after all of the arguments, the question is, what is the result, the net result of those arguments? Are we going to do the airport or not? Well, I'm here to say to you that the government that currently manages the affairs of Nevis, that is the Concerned Citizens Movement in government, have decided that the time has come for us to advance these plans of reconstructing or renovating, expanding, upgrading, whatever term you want to use, of the Van Summer International Airport. We know for a fact that the other side have always said that unless the name Van Summer International Airport is removed from that airport, they would never do anything or touch that airport to reconstruct or upgrade it. And so we know what is planned or what is not planned from that side. What we are saying, name or no name, because the name alone won't attract anybody to Nevis. I'm going to tell you that much. It might dissuade somebody from flying out, I don't know, but I will tell you the name alone will not. What you have to do is to meet the requirements, the regulatory requirements of the FAA, the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, and also the international, they term it as ICAO. Now, once you're able to meet those regulatory conditions and requirements, then the airport is open and you're able to fly in and out. Yeah. So we are having that consultation starting, those consultations starting on Monday. We are saying that we are going to every parish on the island of Nevis. We are starting in Charlestown, and then we'll work our way around the island. There are multiple consultations that are planned, And I will say this as well, do not come to expect us to say what you want to hear. We are laying it out in terms of what we have already on paper. We are laying it out to let you know what we'll have in the future. And then when it's all said and done, a design will be presented to the Nivision public. What we're planning to do up the Advanced Samra International Airport are as follows. Well, we want to extend the runway, from its current state of what? 4,000 feet to 5,500 feet of runway. And by saying that, let me say this up front. There are certain realities over there in Newcastle that we have to deal with. The realities of Hurricane Hill, which is an obstruction, and of course you have the reality of that property on the eastern end, which is a Nisbet Plantation, or former Nisbet Plantation. That being said, what do you get at this point in time, and what can you do in this phase is what we are attempting to do and to accomplish. So we are seeking to accomplish 5,500 feet of runway. We are resurfacing, we'll be resurfacing the entire runway, putting in brand new lighting system, LED lighting system. We'll be expanding the parking apron and building new parking aprons as well. Also building a hangar. And also we'll be doing some renovation work and expansion work to the terminal itself, the current terminal that is there. We'll be expanding the parking lot also. And indeed, first and foremost, and I say this last, but this has to be done in short order, and that is the diversion of the island's main road from the current setup that is out there to a brand new diversion going passing through those lands on the south and then heading north, that's towards the ocean, and then back onto connecting to the island main road just to the back of Sunshine Shoppers. If most of you are familiar with that restaurant, well, it's now called Runway Grill. So that will be laid out, and that will be put to the Nivision public on Monday. Now, in terms of connection to those properties on the north, of course, there is a plan in place to have a road network at the back of the extended runway to the west that would reconnect to those that old road that takes you from the drift area all the way up towards what do you call it now, Newcastle Bay Beach and beyond, because you must have a road network outside of the perimeter of the airport, so that in case of emergency you'll have access. So all that will be explained on Monday evening. And of course, like I said, we have multiple consultations that will be held, and the whole of Nevis must know what is being done or is to be done, and the whole of Nevis will be informed accordingly so that they can make their contribution in some way. And that being said, I invite one and all, as many of you. It will be down there at the St. Paul's Anglican Church schoolroom. We call it schoolroom. It's now more or less a meeting hall or property that can be used for multiple events. So it's right next to the St. Paul's Anglican Church. We were hoping to have this consultation down at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, but they are booked until somewhere around the 9th or the 10th. So it tells you that persons are using the facilities down there as well. And not because we are the government, it doesn't mean that we should go in and say, well, we as the government want to have a consultation, so eliminate whatever bookings is there, bookings are there. Well, no. We are a government that is here for everyone, and whoever would have booked that facility will have the use of it on the 4th of December. We just decided we had to go to an alternative venue, and that's what we'll do on Monday. So 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and indeed, if you miss that one, then we'll be at the other locations as time goes by. We're intending to have those in short order and get around the island over the next couple of weeks as well. So we look forward to that particular event, and I understand many persons have said they're coming, and please come, because when it's all said and done, this project is one that is for the island of Nevis. It is not a Mark Brantley's project, it is not an Alexis Jeffers project, or even a Minister of Government's project. It is a project that encompasses the whole of the island of Nevis, and it's for all of us, when it's all said and done, the benefits to be derived will not be for any individual. It will be a collective sets of benefit that will be enjoyed by the entire island of Nevis. Okay, that's being said, we can always leave that there for now, unless we'll want to say that small island states like St. Kitts and Nevis, but more so Nevis, must have infrastructural development done so as to keep pace with the development that we are anticipating. So I came back here on, I believe it was Wednesday afternoon, when I came off the water taxi, ferry, boat, whatever you want to call it, and disembarked over there on the Wally water taxi pier. When I looked at what we have accomplished over the last couple of years in terms of infrastructural development, I say to myself that we are heading in the right direction as an island in terms of providing the infrastructural development that are necessary for overall economic advancement. And when I came off of that water taxi and walked up to the island main road and looked at the surroundings, the main road that we just resurfaced from Cliff Dwellers all the way up to just beyond Mount Nevis Gate, and then from Shaw's Road all the way up to Nisbet Plantation area. When I looked at it, drove on it, and said, wow, this can match or surpass any other country out there, island out there, in terms of what we have been able to do in terms of our road network and the upgrade of our road network. Not only that, what we have done to our water enhancement program here on the island of Nevis. We have upgraded water, and you'll have a lot of chatter here and there about water being this, water being off. Listen, I hear persons in Antigua, for example, I don't want to call out Antigua, but they're the ones who on radio bawl and say, I ain't see water for 1 week. I've not heard of one soul in Nevis said that they haven't seen or had water delivered to their tap in over a week span. Mark you, they'll say, last night I didn't have any water. Or they may say, sometime during the course of today my water was out. And of course sometimes as well. Some of these outages are not necessarily because there's no water in the system, but more so because some repairs are being done in close proximity to where some persons live. So if there's a ruptured pipe somewhere, of course it has to be repaired. And in the process, you would lose your water at that point in time, but it does come back. So I will say I cannot recall anyone in Nevis saying that they haven't had water for a week. 1 week, no. If that is the case, correct me if I'm wrong, but personally I've not heard, but I've heard persons in other neighboring islands who said they haven't had water for 1 week. Some rainfall at some given point in time, and they will say, even after all that rain, we still don't have any water. So, that being said, I know we have been doing an excellent job. Can we do better? Of course we can. And will we do better? Yes, we will. Yes, we will do better, because of course you have heard from the minister responsible for water, the Honorable Spencer Brand, who would have divulged what the plans and program of the Nevis Island administrations are in terms of desalination and also drilling for additional water. And there is the likelihood that some of the difficulties that we face this year, they would be eliminated by next year. And I think we have done a good job since 2013 to ensure that we continue to improve and deliver water to our people. Not only that, other infrastructural development that we have done here, of course, we've seen a huge upsurge in the demand for housing here on the island of Nevis, and demands that are being met, not in every regard, but in most regard. We have seen an increase in the construction of affordable income houses. So water, we have done a good job. Housing, we have done an excellent job. In terms of roads, we've done a marvelous job. You drive the bypass road. Sometime in the past, I used to feel somewhere when I hear people say that they're driving and they had a kind of name for it, whatever the name was. But anyway, now I'm hearing persons beseeching others to slow down. And I would want to do likewise and beseech our people to slow down on the roads. A few weeks ago, we saw a terrible accident up there at Kettlelang Part. As a matter of fact, within a 1 week space, there were 2 accidents almost in the same area. And I hope the persons are recovering and doing well. But it says that we need to slow down. We need to understand that these roads can be tempting in some ways. But in tempting you to drive fast, you also have to negotiate the conditions that you meet out there on the road, whether it's a wet road, slippery road, or a sharp corner, or something of that sort. You have to be able to negotiate those. And if you can't, then you're running yourself into difficulties. So I want to implore upon our people to take your time on the roads. You ask for roads, where the government is providing roads. The government now is asking you to be careful and be mindful of other road users, so that to us that you can't even climb a hill. But that is an adventure that many persons come to our islands for. So I come full circle and say our infrastructural development must be consistent with what we want to achieve as an island, as a government, first of all, for the betterment of the island. So we have Four Seasons. Four Seasons need to move their guests there. We need to have an airport to bring them to. And that is the long and the short. And that being said, let's move on, because I can speak about Nevis and what Nevis have to offer, the amenities we have here, and how much more beautiful we are than many other islands and countries out there. We must be proud of this island. And when you hear negativity being spewed by some quarters, believe me when I tell you, they do it because they're angry. They are angry with themselves to start with. They're angry with their life, I suppose. But they cannot be angry with the government of the island of Nevis, because the concerned citizens in movement continue to press on in terms of its plans and program and overall development of the island. And that is why we can put together a manifesto from which we are guided to proceed with the development of the island of Nevis. Some may come to you and say all manner of evil about the concerned citizens movement, all manner of evil about the Honorable Mark Brantley, all manner of evil about ministers of government. And then you ask them, what is your prescription for the overall development of Nevis? They'll tell you blue economy, green economy, and they don't even understand what they mean by it. And that is why I say you could listen to them if you want to, but pick sense out of nonsense. Some of it that is being spewed is pure nonsense. So I say that and I move on, because there are more important things to touch on, and you know an hour goes by quickly. So before I go any further, let me just touch on something quickly here, because I was not here since we had our last sitting at the federal parliament, at the federal level, about 2 Mondays ago, I believe it was. Can't recall the date, but anyway, the 21st, I believe it was. Yeah, 21st of November. I haven't come since, but I want to say here and now that something transpired there which was historic in every way. The first time we've had a resolution being read there that is connected to our geothermal development effort, and I believe at this point in time I want to just read it into the records, because sometimes persons don't get a chance to listen to the federal parliament or are not inclined to listen, and sometimes you miss the essence of what the sitting was all about, and then you would get your information from a second source, and sometimes those sources have an agenda, and it's when they divulge anything, their agenda, all of that is wrapped up in their agenda, and they are seeking to either deceive, to mislead, or to give false reporting of what should be factual. And that being said, this geothermal thing have been around for quite some time. So we know back in 2004, under the leadership of the Honorable Michael Perkins, we started hearing about geothermal then. I believe it was an OAS project where, you know, some islands here regionally were the recipient of some studies being done to see who may have the resource available or accessible. And Nevis was one of those islands that it was said to have a major field of geothermal resource. And so over the years we have heard many things being said about geothermal. We've had some stops and some starts. We've had some derailment, and then the train would have been brought back onto the tracks. And of course, these have certainly resulted in not seeing geothermal come into fruition. Now, I said 2004 way back then. That's over 20 years ago since we know and have heard the word geothermal being talked about. Many persons on Nevis never knew anything about geothermal. Many persons on Nevis didn't care anything about geothermal then. The NRP came into government in 2006, and of course the documents were there. It was not something that the NRP came in and started a process. The process was started already in 2004. Some may lead you to believe that NRP came in and started all of the work on geothermal as if there wasn't a starting point. They were the ones who started it. This is not being political. This is being factual. And I like to talk about history because history has already been made. And there is something about history that we should not forget. And the fact about history is that you cannot erase it. Erase it you may try, but once it's in black and white, you certainly cannot erase that. You can tear that leaf out of any book, any history book, and throw it away. Still doesn't throw away the history, because you can find another book with the same page in it. Yeah. Say all that to say this. NRP came into government, and of course they went on a pathway with geothermal, which resulted in them taking the developer to court and got that developer removed from that project. They said the developer didn't have no money. But prior to that, all of us were led to believe that geothermal development could have happened within a year, within 2 years, or whatever the case might be. Because if you would recall, down in Charlestown, one Friday afternoon, it was Juve down there in Charlestown, where you had song and dance and music, DJs and bands and trucks and T-shirt and all kind of bells and whistles down there in Charlestown, celebrating the arrival of geothermal, which was nowhere on the horizon. As a matter of fact, if I were to back up, they had a signing ceremony up there at the netball complex. All song and dance, you know, huge signing ceremony. I suppose it's all a part of the politics. But we have chosen to go about it in a different way. We haven't made any commitment to anybody telling them that we're going to get you geothermal by next year. As a matter of fact, commitments were made by the previous government, the NRP. Because I recall there was a junior minister, you know, one of their ministers who went to some conference in Jamaica, and he promised them in Jamaica, we will sell them geothermal right in Jamaica. Jamaica is in the belly of Miami. How on God's earth you are going to get geothermal power up to Jamaica? I don't know. When they say it's $1 million US dollars per mile of cable, how is it? I think they say $1 million per mile for the cable. Well, I don't know how many miles Jamaica is from us, but it got to be over 1,000 miles, I would think, because Puerto Rico is about, well, no, it wouldn't be 1,000. Puerto Rico, I believe, is about 50 plus miles. Jamaica would be a bit more. So it wouldn't be 1,000. I misspoke there. Sorry about that. It may not. Anyway, put that aside. How on God's earth? You couldn't get geothermal power to St. Kitts. You couldn't get it from, where it was, up there at Spring Hill or up at Jessop's or up there at Hamilton, to the plant over at Nevlek plant, and you can send it all the way to Jamaica. That was a laughing matter for me anyway. But those were the kind of foolishness you were hearing about geothermal. We have brought some stability back to this thing. We have brought it back in the sense that we are not about the hype, but we understand the importance of geothermal and what it can mean to the island of Nevis, to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and perhaps to any country or island neighboring us if we can get that done, because we understand the resource is there and it could be in a certain amount that can be an excess for us to use and can be exported. That being the case, if that was to happen, then it would be a huge plus for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but more so to the island of Nevis. We keep talking about the discovery of oil in Guyana, for example. We talk about oil, Saudi Arabia, and all of those countries that have these resources. But we're trying to get away from fossil fuel, and we're trying to get to renewable energy, whereby at least you don't have to be subjected to the volatility of prices of oil on the world market. So we look at Guyana and we say Guyana have found oil, Guyana is producing, and Guyana's economy is taking off. Guyana this and Guyana that, and kudos to Guyana and their efforts. But we want to come back to our shores and ask ourselves, what can it be like? What could it be like if we're able to harness this resource to start with, develop the resource and have it available to our people. Cheap energy, I understand, somewhere in the region of 9 US cents per kilowatt hour. And I believe that if this development was to take place, it will be a transformation of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course transformation in our lives as well. But a resolution was passed there in the federal parliament on, I said I should have checked the date, but I believe, like I said, it was the 21st of November, Monday the 21st of November. Let me get it right because I want to be certain about the date. Let's see. Monday the 20th of November. I was off by a day. Yes. So that resolution was passed, and I want to say publicly, thank you to the Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. I want to say thank you to his entire cabinet. I want to also give maximum kudos to the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, for spearheading this effort, because after 2017, he would have been, well, even before, but after 2017, he would have tried everything he possibly can to ensure that all of the pieces that are out there can be brought together so that we can proceed with the development of this resource. And you know, Mark Brantley would get a lot of licks from time to time, but I guess it's political licks. That's what people do. They just feel like everything that is said and done by the Premier must be criticized and must be critiqued and there must be some negative about it. But I'll say to you that Mark Brantley is the only man right now that is heading any political party in this island who can run the affairs of the island of Nevis at this point in time. And I say that with much respect because I feel I can too, but I'm not there. But Mark Brantley is the leader, and I believe anyone else in the cabinet can do so too. But he's the leader at this time. He's the leader of the party we call the Concerned Citizens Movement, and he's the leader of the island of Nevis. And when you look on the other side and all of the confusion over there, I believe that the only things that some of them can probably lead is probably a bottle of Guinness. But anyway, I leave that. Let's move on. That was said in a haste and move on. So let's look at this resolution. I put on my glasses because sometimes, you know, as you get older, the vision tend to get a little. My eyes are good, but anyway, I want to make sure I'm seeing right. Yes. And the resolution reads as such, and it's been read into the records because, like I said before, this was a historic occasion on the 20th of November. And let me back up before I go to this and say this. Because when the NRP was there, I can recall the leader then said that he sought a guarantee from the Prime Minister then. Keep in mind, I say it all the time, history has already been made, and no matter what I say, I'm not making up anything. Some people may not want to be reminded of these things, but the Honorable Joseph Parry would have said then he asked for a guarantee, and the guarantee was not forthcoming. People in Nevis must remember that, you know. At that time, the NRP was in bed with the Labour Party then. And as far as I'm concerned, they were propping up the Labour Party because the Labour Party had a lot of trouble in their camp at that point in time, you know. And at that point in time, if you were holding the balance of power with your one seat, I think the fellow Patrice was there at the time. If you were holding the balance of power and you couldn't ask, beseech, beg, or demand that a guarantee be given, I think it was for some 70 million or $75 million, whatever the case might be, that was denied. I believe it was said further by someone, I don't remember who, that what was being asked for couldn't be given, meaning what was being asked of the Nevis Island administration couldn't be given. So that guarantee was never given at that point in time. But they were down there, sitting down, propping up a government. Well, look at the Honorable Mark Brantley, who have chosen to work closely with the Prime Minister of the Federation. And why he does that? He does it because, of course, we have been through so much tumultuous time here in the Federation. A lot of arguing over the last 40 years. A lot of disagreements. And what has that gotten the people of Nevis? What has that gotten the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis? When all is said and done and all of this argument and all of this turmoil, what does that do to enrich the lives of anybody in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis? Absolutely nothing. So when they say we should go down to St. Kitts to make noise for who? For NRP? If you all want to make noise, come down and make noise. Maybe you could stand up outside of the government headquarters and make noise outside. It's up to you. But the people of Nevis have elected the Honorable Mark Brantley, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and myself, Alexis Jeffers, to go down and represent the people of Nevis. And representing the people of Nevis don't mean go down there to box and kick and fight up a soul, but to negotiate, to collaborate, to lend support, to do whatever is necessary to ensure that what we are to receive here in Nevis or whatever we can get for the people of Nevis, we are able to do so. And so we have objected to certain things down there in the federal parliament. It's not everything we have agreed to. I have stood up down there and objected to certain things, but when it's all said and done, it is to make and enhance whatever legislation is being brought forward, but not to make noise with anybody. 40 years of noise, at some point you must get tired. Whoever don't want to get tired, I go ahead. You must drink a lot of Red Bull or something. But I know for sure there comes a time in all of our lives that we have to have a measured approach. A measured approach to governance, a measured approach to anything that we do, so that at least you understand the responsibility that is placed within your palm of your hands, or within the responsibility that is placed within you to go out there and represent the people at such a level that there will be enhancement in their lives. So we want to thank the federal parliament and the Prime Minister and his team for agreeing to table this resolution, because without this resolution, those entities that have thrown their support behind the geothermal development, meaning the Caribbean Development Bank, the U.S. Department of State responsible for energy, and the Italian government, any entity out there or the Green Climate Fund or whomever, they see potential in this geothermal resource. They understand why the world needs to move towards renewable and to protect the environment. They understand why we have to create sustainable island states. They understand all that. And if they can understand, well, who else in Nevis can understand? So all the noise you're hearing is just pure noise. A sustainable island state is what we're trying to create, whereby our lives can be enhanced. And if they see it that way, and they also want to support it, they said they want a resolution from the federal government, from the federal parliament, to ensure that the backing of the federation is there for this particular development. And that's all it is. So all that you'll hear about us giving away geothermal, nonsense. Nonsense. When you don't understand, but let me back up and say, because I tried to get to the resolution, but there's so much you have to say something. Let me back up and say, there are some people out there who want to come with information first, yeah? I'm the first. I bring it first and I start to make noise first, yeah? But I've always learned that you better be careful with what you say, right? Meaning, you don't have to always be the first to rush out to say something. You can be the last, you can be the last and get it right. But you can also be the first and get it all wrong. And then when you get it wrong, that is when there'll be a day of recompense come to you. So, I prefer to be the last and get it right, than to be the first and get it wrong. But anyway, let's go to the resolution. So long I've been saying I go into it. St. Christopher and Nevis statutory rules and orders. Resolution of the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis on geothermal energy. And it reads as such. Whereas the federal government of St. Christopher and Nevis and the Nevis Island Administration equally recognize the critical importance of energy security and the need to transition to sustainable and renewable energy sources. And whereas the federal government of St. Christopher and Nevis and the Nevis Island Administration are collaboratively pursuing the development of a geothermal project located at Vaughan's, Nevis, and in bracket, the project, to enhance the Federation's energy resilience and reduce dependence on fossil fuel. And whereas the production of geothermal energy will be a significant step towards achieving the goal of full energy independence by harnessing the abundant geothermal resources in Nevis, and whereas the project has been contingently recoverable grant funding approval from the, let me back up and say, and whereas the project has received contingently recoverable grant funding approval from the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, in the sum of US $17 million through the Caribbean Development Bank's Special Funds resources allocated from the funding from the Inter-American Development Bank / Sustainable Energy Facility, the Green Climate Fund, and the Government of Italy, for the development of the first set of production wells, and whereas the federal government and the Nevis Island administration are committed to ensuring that the benefits of the project extend to all citizens and residents of St. Christopher and Nevis, and whereas the successful implementation of the project is anticipated to contribute to lower energy prices, economic growth, and job creation across the Federation, now therefore be it resolved by the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis that 1. The National Assembly acknowledges the potential of the project to enhance energy security, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, and promote sustainable economic development. 2. The National Assembly expresses its support for collaborative efforts between the federal government and the Nevis Island administration in the pursuit of geothermal energy development and the project. 3. The National Assembly affirms that the benefits to be derived from the project shall extend to all citizens and residents of St. Christopher and Nevis. 4. The National Assembly commends the partnership with regional organizations, including the Caribbean Development Bank, the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, and the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, and support continued collaboration with relevant stakeholders to ensure the success of the project. And 5, the National Assembly expresses confidence that the project will contribute significantly to achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and advancing the Federation's commitment to a future of clean, affordable, and renewable energy in the transition into a sustainable island state. Approved by the National Assembly this 20th day of November 2023. Now, this resolution, like I said, was passed, and of course, I did say when I stood up there at the federal parliament that I applaud the federal government for their efforts. I also said that we can always come here as a parliament and sit and watch things happen all around the Caribbean, whether it's in Guyana or wherever, watch it happen. You could also come here and sit in parliament and talk and wonder what happened after a 5-year period, or you can come to the parliament and make things happen over a 5-year period. And I've always chosen the latter because I'm always considered, and I've always considered myself as well, as a man of action, a man who gets things done. I hate to talk a lot, even though I love to sometimes, but I love making sure, committing myself to getting things done, and we have gotten things done. I have gotten things done here on the island of Nevis, and by extension the Federation as well. Even when I was a Minister of Agriculture and St. Kitts, I got things done and I left my mark over there over a 2-year period. But come back to Nevis, and let me say this. We as a government, the Nevis Island administration, being managed by the Concerned Citizens Movement, is a government of action. And many times people will say, why aren't you responding to what is being said out there? I sometimes respond and say, you know, this fella Bill Gates, an example I would have heard. I think I heard it from his own lips, that if he gets out of his car one day and he sees 25 cents on the parking lot, or in the parking lot there, he wouldn't waste time picking it up. He's going to go to his office because that's where the money is. That's where he makes a difference. That's where he gets things done. So by spending the time to bend down and pick up that 25 cents, he has lost some time that he will not regain. And that is why I say sometimes when you hear the negativity being spewed, well, the Concerned Citizens Movement, I'll tell you, we won't respond to everything. There's no need to. Because we have things to do. And if we have things to do, the time wasted to respond could be better used to serve the island and the people of Nevis. Those of you out there who like to hear hype, look at the difference between the CCM and the NRP. The CCM have produced, the NRP have been talkers. The CCM are doers, the NRP are talkers. Because I'll tell you by way of example, the NRP spent 6.5 years in government, and ask them to show you one revenue generating project that they would have brought to the island of Nevis. That's all I'm going to tell you. Ask them for one single revenue generating project. They did a couple of things. They did road just like we're doing. They did housing. They did whatever little things they did. But ask them to provide you with an example of one single revenue generating project that they would have brought during those 6.5 years. I'll tell you this much though. When they realized they were on the verge of losing the election in 2011, what they did? They committed atrocities on the people of Nevis, took their name off the list. Over 200 persons were removed from the voters list. To this day, persons right here on the island of Nevis are still bothered by it, still aggrieved by it, still living proof that the NRP was not concerned about the people of Nevis, but more concerned about holding on to power. Have you ever heard that about the Concerned Citizens Movement? They could make up something any day, it's up to them. But the Concerned Citizens Movement is about giving people a fair shake. And no matter what you might say about the leadership of the Honorable Mark Brantley or his team, when you compare both teams, leader to whomever on the other side, you got to tell yourself that you have the best team that you can have at this point in time running the affairs of Nevis. On the other side, you had a team that came to you and all they said, nothing happening in Nevis. Mind, people come here every day and every week and speak about the beauty of Nevis, how advanced the island is. As a matter of fact, when I was traveling out of here last Tuesday, met someone at the airport over there at RLB. And he hadn't come for a few years. And he was so ecstatic about the roads that he saw, the housing, the people who are here who are so happy and buoyant. I tell him there are challenging times in Nevis, you know, people have challenges, but by and large, the people of Nevis have been reaping some success that many other neighboring islands cannot speak of. Do we have all that they have? No. Do we have more than they have in some regard? Yes, we do. Are our people gainfully employed? Yes, they are. Some people have 2 jobs, some have 3. And that is why I'm saying to our people, if opportunities are out there, I know the clock have 24 hours, but if you can fit in anything you can fit in to get an extra dollar, go ahead and make your money. Because every penny that you earn is yours and it's your money to spend and do whatever you would want to do with it. There are opportunities out there. The island of Nevis is seeing some economic rebound from what we experienced in 2020 when things were challenging and difficult. We had some difficult times in 2020 with the onset of COVID-19. But we are not only rebounding, but we are bouncing forward as well. Because with these upcoming projects that we are talking about, that will bring some economic activity to the island and long-term benefits, I say we have to applaud the government and give it support where it is due. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe I'm almost out of time. And you know, I heard my friend Denrick Liebert and his associate here just prior to me, and I want to commend Denrick Liebert publicly. He is now the acting CEO, I believe, of the Bank of Nevis, and an institution that has grown over the years and have grown beyond our shores also. Have had some challenges and difficulties, yes, but it is still one of the premier banking institutions here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Many of us can claim it as their bank out there. They are now, I'm sure many persons have been able to access mortgages much more easier now. And I will say that I take credit for that too. And why I said take credit is because at the NHLDC we would have done a few things there so as to bring pressure to the commercial banks to make loans available, mortgages available to our people. And they have certainly tweaked their requirements to ensure that more persons are getting mortgages. And I want to commend Bank of Nevis for sure, because they were on just before me and they're offering some new packages or new advanced technological ideas to do your banking, and I wanted to partake. Of course, it is a bank that we have grown to love and grown to do business with and the like. So congratulations to you, Denrick, and your entire team down there. And also I want to wrap up by saying that of course we are about to enter the Christmas season. We're now already getting some Christmas fever because the music is playing on all radio stations. You're seeing things, lights are being put up, and everybody is trying to get themselves into the festive mood. We have Carnival coming up in St. Kitts and the likes. But over here on the island of Nevis, whatever you can do to beautify your property, do that. Because you see, when you have all of these lights, it brings a sense of nostalgia and a sense of Christmas. And I want us all to enjoy this festive season. I don't know I don't know what else to say other than to say that I am out of time. And I see my engineer is already smiling and perhaps saying wrap up. So I'm wrapping up and saying to the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, thanks for listening. I didn't greet everybody this afternoon. Some are overlooked that, but I want to greet you now, and I want to wish you a safe and wonderful weekend. And indeed, it is always a pleasure having you in my company. This program cannot be what it is without you. So thanks for listening on point today. And I want to welcome you back next week, God's willing. Until then, have yourself a safe and wonderful day and a lovely and beautiful weekend. And see you again next week with God's help. Thank you very much. God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio.